Welcome to Prime Luxury. The leader of the powerful Clan del Golfo, who has a $5 million bounty on his head, was seized in a raid by military and police. Dairo Antonio Úsuga, known as Otoniel, Colombia's most sought-after drug trafficker and leader of the Clan del Golfo, has been captured at its jungle hideout by the country's armed forces. Today, we will tell you how Colombia's richest drug lord Otoniel was captured. How was he caught? Otoniel was captured in his rural hideout in Antioquia province in the northwestern Colombia, close to the border with Panama. The operation involved 500 soldiers supported by 22 helicopters. One police officer was killed. Otoniel had used a network of rural safe houses to move around and evade the authorities, and did not use a phone, instead relying on couriers for communication. In the past, police have found special orthopedic mattresses for Otoniel in these sparse homes, as he suffered back pain from a herniated disc. Police Chief Jorge Vargas has said the drug lord was fearful of capture, never approaching inhabited areas. But El Tiempo newspaper said that authorities managed to pinpoint the location where he was eventually captured. Chief Vargas said his movements were traced by more than 50 signal intelligence experts using satellite imagery. US and UK agencies were involved in the search. Mr. Duke, quoted by the AFP news agency, described the operation as the biggest penetration of the jungle ever seen in the military history of our country. Colombia's armed forces later released a photo showing its soldiers guarding Otoniel, who is in handcuffs and wearing rubber boots. There have been several huge operations involving thousands of officers to capture the 50-year-old in recent years. But until now, none has been successful. There's no doubt that this is seen as a coup by Colombian authorities. They've been trying to capture Otoniel for several years now. The Gulf Cartel is a formidable and violent organization with a great deal of power, and the comparisons with Pablo Escobar are understandable. Otoniel is a household name and has been hugely powerful, especially in the northwest of the country. In South America, there is no larger cocaine trafficker, says Toby Muse, author of Kilo, Inside the Cocaine Cartels. We are living in the golden age of cocaine. We are producing more cocaine than ever. That's a fact. The parallels perhaps stop there. Otoniel is not as well known outside of Colombia. And speak to people who lived in the country at the peak of Pablo Escobar's power. Many feel they were more frightening times. The question is, will Otoniel's capture impact the trade of the illicit drug? It's hard to know now. We'll have to see what happens in the coming months, but most experts seem to think that while demand for cocaine remains strong, it's likely there will be new capos rising to the top to replace him. Who is Otoniel? Born in Antioquia in the early 1970s, Otoniel jumped between several guerrilla and paramilitary groups, including the FARC, Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, the major Marxist-Leninist rebel group, and the United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia, or AUC, a far-right paramilitary and drug trafficking gang. When the AUC dissolved in 2005, he began working for the drug lord Daniel Rendon Herrera, known as Don Mario, head of the Urbanos, which later became known as the Gulf Clan. Otoniel then took charge of the group after its previous leader, his brother, was killed by police in a raid on a New Year's Eve party almost 10 years ago. Colombia's security forces labeled the gang as the country's most powerful criminal organization, while authorities in the US describe it as heavily armed and extremely violent. The gang, which operates in many provinces and has extensive international connections, is engaged in drug and people smuggling, illegal gold mining, and extortion. It is believed to have about 1,800 armed members, who are mainly recruited from far-right paramilitary groups. Members have been arrested in Argentina, Brazil, Honduras, Peru, and Spain. The gang controls many of the routes used to smuggle drugs from Colombia to the US and as far away as Russia. The Colombian government, however, believes it has decimated its numbers in recent years, forcing many leading members to hide in remote regions in the jungle. Otoniel now faces a number of charges, including sending shipments of cocaine to the US, killing police officers, and recruiting children. He was indicted in the US in 2009 and faces extradition proceedings, which could see him eventually appear in court in New York. Victims deserve justice. Jose Miguel Vivanco, America's Director of Human Rights Watch, or HRW, congratulated the Colombian government on Otoniel's capture, tweeting that the drug lord must be held accountable for the hundreds of crimes committed under his command. Vivanco added, "The victims deserve justice." Authorities have been after Otoniel for years, killing allies, capturing family members, and going after his finances. Colombia had offered a reward of up to $800,000 for information leading to his capture, while the US had put a bounty of $5 million on his head. Duke said Otoniel's arrest marks the end of the Gulf clan, but analysts and human rights groups worry the move could result in more violence at a time of worsening clashes between armed groups. When the head of an organization, a kingpin, is toppled, there are a dozen underlings ready to take their place. And I have no doubt the same will happen with Otoniel, said Sergio Guzman, director of Colombia Risk Analysis. Still, the takedown of Otoniel was a success, Guzman said, as it comes at a time when the Colombian security forces are slowly losing control of rural areas to armed gangs. It's positive that they're able to capture one of the most wanted criminals in Colombia, Guzman said. They didn't gun him down, they didn't bombard him. This means there was intelligence. This means there was infiltration. This means there was a sophisticated operation that led to his capture. The US and the United Kingdom provided the intelligence of the operation to capture Otoniel, according to the Associated Press news agency, while more than 500 members of Colombia's special forces and 22 helicopters were used in the jungle raid. Kingpin strategy. Experts say Otoniel's capture falls in line with a military tactic used in Latin America known as the Kingpin strategy, in which security forces seek to take out the leader of an armed group in order to topple its criminal enterprises. The strategy was used in the killing in 1993 of Escobar, who at the time was the leader of the Colombian Medellin cartel, as well as the capture in 2016 of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the former leader of the Mexican Sinaloa cartel. But the tactic has long been criticized by experts, who say it often has the opposite of the intended effect, creating infighting within armed groups and new struggles for territorial power, and in turn generating more violence. They say this was the case following the capture of Guzman and the killing of Escobar. A Colombian human rights defender who has received death threats from the Golf clan over her work advocating for victims of conflict said she is worried Otoniel's arrest could worsen violence in her home region, Los Montes de Maria, the sweltering northern area, which saw a brief respite in violence when the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or FARC group, signed a peace pact with the Colombian government in 2016, is a strategic drug route and a historic hub for armed groups. The Golf clan in the Montes de Maria gets stronger every day, said the human rights defender, who wished to remain anonymous. Every day, their forces grow. They may have taken out the boss, but there are other bosses and other gangs that keep gaining control, she said. Instead of reducing the violence is only going to get worse. These people are going to continue arming, they're going to continue threatening us, and they're going to continue extorting. Who is afraid of Otoniel? Since his capture, Úsuga has been held in a high-security prison in Bogota and has been at the heart of multiple controversies. Recordings of testimony Otoniel gave to the Truth Commission, an extrajudicial body investigating the decades-long conflict between the government and the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, were stolen, the perpetrators unknown. Colombian police also halted one of Úsuga's Truth Commission hearings, saying the Golf clan had organized an escape attempt. Who is afraid of Otoniel? A headline on Cambio, an independent online news outlet, which charged that some people in the Colombian government sought to silence the drug lord. This site reported Úsuga would have said during his hearings that the army continued to work in complicity with right-wing paramilitaries in some parts of the countries. Citing a leaked Truth Commission document, the outlet said Otoniel has implicated 63 people as linked to the Golf clan, including a former minister, a former national director of intelligence, 6 former governors, and 4 former members of parliament. Family members of Úsuga's victims had asked for the courts to suspend his extradition, arguing that he should stand trial in Colombia for crimes against humanity. But the Colombian justice system ultimately gave the green light for his extradition. Úsuga's defense team told AFP, Duke vowed that Úsuga would still face justice in Colombia. This criminal was extradited to serve drug trafficking sentences in the United States, the president said. But I want to be clear that once those are served, he will return to Colombia to pay for the crimes committed against our country. Do let us know what you think about these drug lords like him. Thanks for watching.